Good morning. My name is Jason Ishii, Chairperson of the Authority. I'd like to now call to order the July 5th, 2023 at-large authority meeting of the Hawaii Community Development Authority. And the time is now 11:43.
Thank you, Chair. In accordance with section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, the Hawaii Community Development Authority is holding today's at-large board meeting virtually on Zoom. The Zoom link details were included on the meeting agenda. Therefore, members of the public are welcome to join us on Zoom and also at our physical meeting site at the American Brewery Building, 547 Queen Street, second floor boardroom, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. The meeting is being live streamed on HCDA's YouTube page. The HCDA communications staff is hosting this meeting. Once this meeting begins, everyone will be muted for clearer audio. Board members, if you have any comments or questions, please unmute yourselves to speak. This is a public virtual meeting, so to prevent any distractions, if you are not a board member, staff member, or HCDA's Attorney General, please turn off your video during the meeting. If you are providing public testimony, your name will be called accordingly. Please turn your video on, clearly state your name and affiliation, and proceed with your testimony. When you have finished, please turn off your video. In accordance with section 92-3.7 C, Hawaii Revised Statutes, if the authority's ICT connection for the remote meeting is lost, the meeting will be recessed until the connection is restored. If the connection cannot be restored within 30 minutes, the meeting will be terminated and the authority will continue the meeting at another notice date. Thank you.
All right, ACDA board members, please remain visible and audible during the meeting. Also, please acknowledge that you are present by either saying here or present. Let the record reflect the following members are present. Vice Chair Apo.
Here.
Member Higa.
Here.
Member Miranda Johnson.
Here.
Member Anderson.
Here.
Member Hirai.
Here.
Member Aoki. Member Aoki. Member Evans.
Here.
Member Suji.
Here.
Member Sakota.
Here.
Member Ray. Member Ray. Member Leong.
Here.
And member Light is excused.
Yeah. Nine.
Do we have quorum?
We have four.
Thank you. For today's meeting, board members will have an opportunity to ask questions or provide comments after an agenda item has been presented. Individuals from the public who have requested to provide verbal public testimony on a specific agenda item are on standby and will be permitted into the meeting respectively. Item number 1, regular meeting minutes of June 7, 2023. Board members, are there any comments or corrections to these minutes? If there's no comments or questions, the minutes are approved as presented. Action item number 2, election of officers, fiscal year 2023 to 2024. We would now like to conduct the election for ACDA officers for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. I note that our bylaws call for the election of officers to be elected on the first meeting following July 1st of each year. I will now open nominations for the respective offices of chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. You may make separate nominations for each office, or you may nominate a slate of officers, or you may nominate yourself if you wish to volunteer to serve as an officer. Before we take nominations, we will hear public testimony. Is there any public testimony? None? There's none. Board members, are there any nominations for chairperson, vice chairperson, or secretary, or a slate of nominations?
Do I hear any nominations?
Joanne?
I suggest we keep the same slate that we have now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
call for a short recess.
Okay,
Okay, sure, he says.
sure, we should.
Yeah.
Okay,
What? Yeah.
let's go back to regular session.
So,
Okay,
sorry,
so what, Commissioner Paul, so you're saying you wanted to, what was that again? I'm sorry.
I was going to give up my seat as vice chair and support that board member Higa succeed me as the vice chair.
I see. Thank you. So you're nominating member Higa as a vice chair? Is that correct?
Correct.
and then are you nominating the chair as the chair and then yourself as a secretary, as a slate member of both?
Sounds good to me. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so can I suggest, Chair, for clarification then?
Okay.
So we have a slate A, which consists of the current officers, so Chair Ishii as chair, Vice Chair Apo as vice chair, and then Sterling Higa as secretary. That's slate A. And then we have a slate B for clarification, that is Chasen Ishii for chair. And then Sterling as vice chair. And member Apo as secretary. Is that correct?
Is that correct, member Paul?
Yes. Yes.
Is there any other nominations? Members?
Any other nomination? Okay, so what I suggest we do is, are we closing the nominations, Chair?
Yeah, hearing there's no further nominations, the nominations for the offices of chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary are now closed.
Okay. So why don't we have a roll call vote for slate A, which is the same officers, and then a roll call vote for slate B, if slate A doesn't pass.
Before you do that, may I ask if Secretary Higa is in compliance with Vice President Apo for this change?
Yes,
Sorry.
member Higa supports slate B, the change
Okay.
proposed by member Uppo.
Okay, in that case, then I withdraw my original suggestion.
All right, that, I think that works. So, Chair, I think we have member Leong withdrawing her nomination of slate A. And all we have is slate B, and the nominations are closed. So we can have a roll call vote on slate B.
Okay. So we will conduct the roll on slate B, right?
Yes.
As I call your name, please announce the name of the slate, right?
Or just say yes.
Or just say yes, I
Slate
guess,
B,
right?
yes.
So when I call your name, if you can, please say yes or no, indicating that you're for or opposed for slate B. I can get the roll here.
And we take the roll.
Vice Chair Apo,
Yes to slate B.
Secretary Higa,
Yes to slate B.
Member Johnson,
Yes to slate B.
Member Anderson. Member Anderson,
Chair, a little bit louder.
Member Anderson,
Yes to slate B.
you're right. Member Evans,
Yes to slate B.
Member Susan. Fuji,
Yes, to slate B.
Member Sakota,
Yes.
Member Ray. Member Leong,
Yes, to slate B.
Chair, 9 members voting affirmatively. Slate B is elected.
all right, congratulations to Vice Chair.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
sorry, I thought we did call.
Veronica Johnson.
Yes, still yes to slate B.
Chair, you didn't vote. No, you can't. Yes, sorry. Sorry, so the vote is 10 affirmative. I apologize. 10 affirmative. Of course. 11. 1, 2, 3. 10, yeah.
I call him.
Yeah, 10.
All right, congratulations to Slate B. Vice Chair Higa, welcome. And Secretary Apo. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, members.
The next agenda item. Consider authorizing the executive director to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the state of Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources pursuant to 206E-414 Hawaii revised statutes to receive funding and execute contracts to conduct a strategic assessment and market study for the Banyan Drive area on the Waiakea Peninsula of the Hawaii Island. Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director, will now present HCDA staff report.
Thank you, Chair. The staff report is contained in pack 3 of your packet. The Banyan Drive area is located on the island of Hawaii in the Hilo area. Next slide. Next slide. Present. Oh, next slide. And the area has been the subject of previous planning studies as to what kind of uses should be made to the Banyan Drive area. The land right now is owned by the Department of Land and Natural Resources. In the last legislative session, a bill was introduced by Representative Nakashima to create a community development district for the Banyan Drive area and to transfer leases that are held now by the Department of Land and Natural Resources to the Hawaii Community Development Authority. House Bill 1243 was deferred after discussions with DLNR and the introducer of the bill. The thought was given to undertaking a master plan for the area. Given the time constraints of finishing up a master plan before the start of the next legislative session in January of 2024, we advised that a master plan would not be feasible, and we could probably do some kind of shorter market feasibility study and strategic assessment for the area that would then inform lawmakers, DLNR, and stakeholders of the marketability and feasibility of certain land uses. There is a strong desire to maintain that area, as you can see on the screen, as a tourist area, visitor attraction area. But I think the market study and the strategic assessment will inform as to that kind of use. DLNR staff has asked for our assistance and partnering with them to oversee the creation of this feasibility study and market study. We would enter into a memorandum of agreement with DLNR that authorizes the transfer of approximately $225,000 from DLNR to HCDA to pay for the cost of that study and related expenses. Once we get that study, we would present it to policymakers, lawmakers, and it would inform them of what the next steps would be. Chair, with respect to Banyan Drive, the lease revenues from the leases that DLNR holds, as you can see in Exhibit A, are used to pay for program expenses, program needs at DLNR. And I'm reluctant to take those leases on and not have those lease revenues available for DLNR. So I think my preference is to do this study, help DLNR with the study, and then hopefully it'll inform lawmakers and DLNR as to what their next steps are, and maybe the bill does not need to proceed next session. And Russell Tsuji, who is also a board member, is to answer any questions. If this board approves this, we still have to go to, or DLNR still has to go to their board later on this month to seek approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
And Craig, we also have Ian Hirokawa, I believe, is available to testify as well, if you have any questions.
Yeah, Member Suji, I wanted to hear from yourself to see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, we support the staff recommendation. We're going to before our board for a similar matter. We came up with a draft MOA, and we think such a report might be helpful, especially to the representative who sponsored the bill. And hopefully we look forward to talking with him and discussing how he'd like to proceed going forward. This area has drawn a lot of attention sometimes in the past, some maybe not so good attention in the sense that there's some structures there that remain like Uncle Billy's that is becoming a problem. And we're looking, just to give you an update on that, the legislature that we've sought funding for the demolition. It's very expensive. Estimates are running between $12 to $14 million just to demo Uncle Billy's. And we have sought funding, an appropriation for the last several years. This most recent session, we were able to at least get $8 million of GO bond reimbursables that need to be repaid out of the revenues we generate out of our special fund. And so with that, we're looking at possible partial demolition to at least make the structures uninhabitable so that trespassers don't just go in and cause all kind of problems there. And it's in a tourist area, so that can be very problematic. We think this study might help, especially if there is a need for infrastructure improvements, because this area, Banyan Drive, is relatively older, and so for future expansion or development, that may be necessary. I think the department and others are hopeful, but it's currently the golf course is under a lease to Nanani Law. I mean, the idea was if some way, somehow we could pull that land out and maybe make it useful more for the community center, something like that for the county, a cultural place. I think there was talk about a stadium that would replace, that would be a venue for the Miami Monarch, something like that. Anyway, we're in support, and we ask that you support this memorandum. We'll be funding the study. The amount was based on a preliminary estimate, I think, that HCDA got from, but again, it's just an estimate, and so we're prepared to transfer. I think the MOA calls for $225,000 or so much as necessary that we need to pursue the study. Thank you. I have Ian Hirakawa from my staff is also available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Member Suji. Is it members, do you have any other questions or comments?
Peter, I'll pose a question. Did I hear you correctly? 12 million for to demolish?
That was just Uncle Billy's. It's estimated, the estimate that we got was about between 12 to 14, yeah. But we only got 8 million in a geo bond reimbursable. I'm going to see what we can do for that.
So, would the, following up on that, would demolition be considered, even though it's done in the absence of moving forward, and what the alternative would be in terms of replacing Uncle Billy's? Would that be threaded together in taking on? I'm kind of, where I'm coming from is like the Waikiki Natatorium. What's going on there with avoided demolition all these years?
Yeah.
And,
Uncle Billy's has got to come down. I mean, that has to come
Yes,
down.
yes,
It is a health hazard. It is attracting trespassers, all kind of drug kind of use and stuff like that. So we need to take that down.
I do understand that my track is the notion of within the same conversation, perhaps having a conversation on what might succeed Uncle Billy's and tie the two together. But that's just a suggestion.
Yeah. It's not connected with the demolition. Maybe something might come out in this study, but I know that there's been discussion about the future use if and when it ever got demolished. Some people have suggested open area, open park. Some people have suggested help assist the area in parking, which is badly needed in that area. And another thought was a small hotel. And I think the study would assist that, hopefully to determine market demand and whether there's demand for an additional hotel or whether there is sufficient inventory right now with Naniloa and Hilo Hawaiian as a primary hotels, together with Reed's Bay and the others.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Member Hirai?
Russell,
Yes.
there's no master plan or EIS for this area? And then where I'm heading is.
No.
You got.
And there was, if you recall, member Hirai, there was, the county was involved with this redevelopment authority a few years ago. The department was, and they kind of got stopped. But I heard that they're recently starting up again, with the current mayor, but.
I'm just more concerned about, this is state land, right? We got sea level rise and we got tsunami inundation zone questions. And they're probably gonna come up on an EIS, so just saying.
We have actually a sea level rise study that was done in the past as to the, and so that is available. Other studies that we did study the area like a market. We did a market study sort of a few years ago as well. All those will be available to the current consultant to review, to update, and to come up with its study.
I suspect at some point we're gonna need an EIS because it's state land.
For development purposes, yes.
Thank you. Member Evans?
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask Member Suji, is the infrastructure ownership county or state or private for the Banyan Drive area?
As far as within the road right of way in the Banyan Drive area, that's all county. So the infrastructure there would be with the county. I think perhaps, so currently that's the situation. I think HCDA might have been looked at by the representative because similarly, like in Kakako, where we had a lot of private property and private infrastructure or county infrastructure, a lot of it, somehow HCDA was able to assist in upgrading some of the needed requirements and to help support development in that area. I think that's sort of the idea. Craig, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I believe that is the introducer's intent, was to kind of look at that and have HCDA speed up the development of infrastructure that supports further development in Banyan Drive.
Isn't the county redoing their wastewater plant, and isn't that just kind of down the street, Russell? I mean, it's not that far away, right?
I don't know. You're talking about Hilo? I have not heard. I am not aware.
The recollection is Hilo needs to redo their wastewater treatment plant. And I thought it was kind of down, a little bit down the coast from.
Was that to upgrade it? To upgrade it?
Yeah, well, not just upgrade it, but redo it. So, I mean, if you're gonna have to hook into county sewer, we gotta work with the county.
Yes.
And I believe,
Yes.
and I believe that, memory right, that, the study, is gonna have to take into account all of those things as they suggest different uses.
Member Sakota?
Hi, Russell. You know, the question that I
Hi.
up in my mind when I hear a $12 to $14 million demolition issue is something that actually Craig brought up with some of the 99 Lear lease issues that are coming up. But what's the history of Uncle Billy's was that they're releasing the land and then they just end the lease and the state is stuck with the demolition costs.
Yeah, it was a very old lease issued, I forget, probably in the 60s or something. And it was definitely a very old form. It did not have our current standard form, which provides that the board of Land and Natural Resources at the end of the term can either decide whether the tenant to remove it or the improvements can stay, and it's at the land board's discretion. This lease was an auction lease, and at the time, and still currently today, there is a case law that prevents the board even, from updating its old leases that were issued by auction, under the theory that at the time of the auction, the lease was available for everyone's viewing before the auction, and they all had the same, terms and conditions, and they relied upon that. So for the board to later change that, whether unilaterally or together with the lessee, was not allowed. And so we've been stuck with that case and basically had that a lease that was just outdated, that at the end of the term, it did not necessarily allow the landlord to order removal of the improvements. Yeah.
Is that structure, is it a concrete structure or Uncle Billy's?
I think if I recall, if correctly, it's a combination, and concrete and wood. And I think definitely the basement area, the foundation is concrete, and then, but I recall the hotel itself structure, vertical side might have been wooden structures.
As a state employee, I've stayed there because it was the least expensive option for state employees visiting Hilo. And I'll tell you, those are the thinnest walls I have ever stayed in. And of course, it did serve a very useful purpose. Every school athletic team or school site visit going to the Hilo area got very reasonable rates there. So I want to stand up for the fact that it did serve a useful purpose for many decades, but it is a very shaky structure, and it must be even worse now.
I mean, the reason why I bring it up is just that when we talk about 99 years, we have all these new buildings coming up in Kaka'ako. It's just, what's the actually anticipated lifespan of that building? For a newly constructed concrete building, in 50 or 60 years, are we going to have to take it down? So That's why I ask. And this is kind of looking backwards, right? And 50, 60, 70 years ago, and we're seeing the end result today. So thank you, Russell.
If I may comment on that, I mean, just I think if your staff and your with HCDA have good leases and lease forms and continue to monitor those leases on making sure that the tenant maintains the facility or whoever's obligated, and then structure is such a concrete definitely can go over 100 years. So we have right now DLNR's inventory. We have an ability to extend leases beyond the 65-year maximum that was previously the law for from the time up until very recently. You couldn't extend beyond 65. And so we're going to be hovering into the 100 century. Some leases will extend into 100 years. And I think from what I've seen, as long as they continue to maintain it, and in exchange for the extended term beyond 65, they put in a certain amount of improvements that the legislature required. Hopefully, it won't be as in the kind of situation that we're in right now with Uncle Billy's. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Russell.
Secretary Director Nakamura.
Yeah, Member Sakota, thanks for the comments. Sort of the demolition of structures at the end of a lease term has been something that I've been discussing in conjunction with a proposed project for another district. And it's a concern. It's one thing to have a provision in the lease that says the lessee is responsible for demolition at the end of a term. The question, I think, more in my mind is how is the demolition cost going to be financed and paid for? At the end of a lease term, it might be difficult to chase a lessee for the demolition cost. So that's one of the issues we're facing for another project, is how to get the lessee to guarantee to pay for it and to have funds available at the end of a lease term, or if they abandon the property and the improvements need to be removed. For the 99-year lease term, that is an issue. That's something that we really have to dive into as to how we do it, whether it's by renewal or some other way, because that is a concern.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, yes, Vice Chair Fu.
What I was thinking is, I don't know if there's any merit to this, but tying the demolition to an RFP that might call for a developer or someone to suggest that they would be willing to pay for the demolition or at least offset the cost in exchange for an idea that they may have to develop the project, so that
Yeah, we looked at that. We looked at that already. We actually had an RFP out for this one, and it ended up being canceled at the end of the day. But we had it evaluated also from our appraiser. Appraiser evaluated this scenario, and he determined that the cost of demo, because it was so high, that even if you were to RFP it and say you have a zero rent for the full 65 years, the developer would lose money on the project. They would not be able to make money. So they just to demolish it, it costs so much, that let alone you got to go vertical on any construction. So with that in mind, and then the cancellation of subsequently of an RFP, when we thought maybe a developer might want to come in and demo and rebuild, and we really didn't have anyone viable, and the sole applicant ended up having to cancel anyway. So we've decided that it's best at least to get through step one, which is demolition, because of the condition of the hotel and the impact to the area. Right now, we're getting a lot of complaints and trespassers and stuff. And so we thought that was urgent, that we take care of that problem first. As far as any future of that site, we can always determine that later and when it's cleared up. Yeah, because even on this, using the $8 million that geo reimbursable that we did get, That is, we think we're gonna need a further appropriation to really clean it up and get rid of everything underground, everything like that. We're just hoping it brings us to surface or making the structures uninhabitable at best, yeah.
Yeah, I get the sense.
Thank you for your suggestions, though. We have thought real hard about this one, yeah, for a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments? Is there any public testimony on this matter? No public testimony.
Member Ray joined at 12:10.
Okay, let the record show that member Ray joined at 12:20. Is there a motion for the board to authorize the executive director to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the State of Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources pursuant to 206E-4-14 Hawaii Revised Statutes to receive funding and execute contracts to conduct a strategic assessment and market study for the Banyan Drive area on the Waiakea Peninsula on Hawaii Island. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Member Apollo
Second.
seconds.
Members, are there any further discussion on this motion? If not, I'll ask Craig to take the roll call.
Thank you, Chair. On the motion made by member Evans and seconded by member Uphold. Member Evans,
Yes.
member Uphold,
Aye, yes.
Chair Ishii,
Yes.
member Higa,
Yes.
member Miranda Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you, member Hirai,
Yes.
member Anderson,
Yes.
member Tsuji,
Craig, if you don't mind, I'll abstain on this one.
thank you, member Tsuji, member Aoki. Excuse, member Sakura,
Yes.
member Ray,
Yes.
member Leon,
yes,
member Light is excused. So Chair, the motion passes with 10 yes votes, no votes, and one abstain,
One excuse.
one excuse. Actually, 4 excused, yeah, since it's vacancies. Yeah,
Thank you. Item number 3, ACDA's monthly financial highlights for May 2023, report by the executive director. Mr. Garrett Sasaki, are you gonna be doing the report or Craig?
I'll just summarize, Chair, in the interest of time. So, financials are there. I just wanted to note that we did retain or hire a temporary secretary because of the departure of Kapili. So we did hire a temporary secretary to provide support for the agency. And Gary is available for any questions on the financials.
Members, are there any questions or comments regarding the financial report? Any public testimony? None? All right, with that, thank you for those of you joined us on Zoom, in person, or via YouTube. This concludes our business for today, and the meeting is now adjourned, and the time is 12:24. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone should